Welcome to Wiki Bearings, where we dive into the worlds of engineering excellence, from the automotive marvels to the industrial giants. Join us to explore the wonders that keeps the world in motion. My name is Hassanein Alwan, and I'm your host. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Wiki Bearing. Today we're going to talk about automotive belts, and for this topic we have a very experienced guest with decades of experience in the automotive belt business and industry. Welcome, Tan Atila from Dayco. You are the regional manager for Middle East, Africa, Greece, and Turkey. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you, dear Hassanein. It's great to be here.
If we look at the belt business or the belt, automotive belts, it's a very vast topic, and Dayco is a premium brand in this sector, well-known brand. But just for our audience to know a little bit more about Dayco, what does Dayco do? Dayco the brand, Dayco the company. I would love to hear from you more.
Thank you. Dayco was founded in Dayton, Ohio in 1905 as a Dayton Rubber Company. And then the name was transformed into Dayco in time.
So it's more than 100 years?
Yes, more than 100 years, almost 120 years.
Yes,
so
yeah.
Dayco is one of the first manufacturers of belts. And currently we are one of the few major manufacturers, especially for the timing belt, which is, as you know, a very crucial component.
Critical.
For the engine, yes, exactly. Of course, there are many milestones in the history of the company, but
100 years is a long time.
Yes, it's quite a long time. There are a few, of course, milestones which are, let's say, very critical. As the company was founded in 1905, Dayco did not have direct presence in Europe until the beginning of 1990s.
Okay.
In 1992, Dayco acquired a very famous Italian rubber and tire manufacturers industrial division. Along with its manufacturing facilities in the south of Italy. So as of 1992, Dayco became directly present in Europe. And in, let's say, more or less 3 decades, now Dayco creates almost half of its revenue from the region we call EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa, even though we were not present directly until 1990s in Europe. So
impressive growth.
Yes, it's actually quite now. The EMEA has been maybe the most significant market for Dayco.
Okay. And if we look at the last 3 decades, Dayco have grown up to be well-known. And I think they're not only in the aftermarket, but also in OE, in European OE. Now, for our audience that doesn't know very well Dayco as a brand, what products do Dayco cover today, now after this? And how much of these products are present in the OE market?
Dayco is mainly the producer of the timing belt and the poly belt. And of course, the tensioners and the idlers that are used in the application together with the belts.
So the whole engine transmission.
Exactly. First of all, the timing drive we call consists of the timing belt, the timing tensioner, and the idler, and also the poly belt and the poly tensioners and idlers. These are the core businesses of Dayco.
I mean, the poly, which we normally call the accessory belt, or
auxiliary belt, yes, also is a common usage as well. It transmits the power from the crankshaft to the air conditioning compressor, the steering pump, the alternator as well. So Dayco is a manufacturer and distributor of these critical components for the engine. Is
Dayco have any presentation or in the OE business as well?
Of course, our revenue is more or less equally diverted into OE and aftermarket. So almost half of our turnover comes from OE and half of our turnover comes from the aftermarket. So we are in
good position.
Yes, we are, let's say, balanced position. We are focused on the OE, but we are also quite strong in the aftermarket.
And how is your market in the home of the original Dayco, like in US and South America, and so on?
We have 4 different geographical divisions in the aftermarket. North America is one of them. LATAM, Latin America, is one of them. EMEA is one of them. And APAC, Asia Pacific, Australia, China, is one of them. So EMEA is a very important market for us, like mentioned before. And also our presence in the North American market is extremely strong as being
Still.
Yes, still being an American company. So we are also working to increase our share in the LATAM and APAC regions as well.
Now, if we generally look at Dayco, it's very much connected to European cars. I don't know how much of your business is also going to the heavy duty, the truck business and so on. Do you have any idea?
Well, if you consider the turnover, an important portion of our business is from passenger cars and light commercial vehicles. But we are also very strong, especially in OE, in heavy-duty applications. We are the OE supplier for the poly V-belt, the auxiliary belt, and the tensioner. So our OE pedigree is extremely strong also in heavy-duty.
Okay.
So it's difficult to make a comparison from turnover point of view between passenger car and heavy duty, but we could confidently say we are equally strong both in OE and aftermarket in both passenger car and heavy duty applications.
Now, if we look at your range, you're very strong in timing and poly V, and you have some other specialized product. Can you tell us a little bit, because people read the numbers and they have no real understanding of what does this number mean? We will not, at the end it's a podcast, we cannot do all the technicality of it, but just some idea for people to identify. Maybe they're working with already, some of the audience is doing some Dayco, but
of
maybe
course.
They are also doing some other brands, and maybe they want to understand how to identify the numbers and so on.
Of course. Briefly, I would like to emphasize our timing belt range starts with 9-4, and it's either consists of a 5-digit number or 6-digit number starting with 9-4.
Okay.
And the tensioners that are used with the timing belt are start with the ATB.
ATB.
Yes, and also the idlers that are used in the application are the reference numbers start with ATB. For the poly V belt, it's actually...
So the rigid components start with ATB for the timing
belt. Yes.
And the timing
ATB
belt
stands for timing. In the end of the ATB stands for the timing belt. Yes.
And when it comes to the timing belt, almost all of them are 9-4?
Yes.
It starts with 9-4, either a 5 digits or 6 digits.
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
So for the poly V belt, it's also easy to identify because it goes like 6 PK 1300.
A popular way of
quite popular. It will be easy to understand for the consumer. And also the tensioners that go with the poly V start with APV.
APV.
Yes.
Okay.
So in addition to these, of course, we have the water pumps that start with DP. To give you an example, DP 1000 is it means a water pump. And we have the thermostats also in our range, which start with DT. DT 1000 is a thermostat.
Okay.
And we have the wheel bearing, which start with KWD.
KWD.
Yes, and the steering and suspension parts start with DSS, like Dayco steering suspension.
Okay. Now, of course, people can refer to the catalog. You have a nice online application.
Yes.
People, if they are using any of the Android or the iOS, they can search Dayco application for more information about that. But this is just to give the audience an idea to understand. So when they see a 9-4, they know it's a timing belt. They see PK, this is a poly V, and so on. Now, especially the timing belts are very popular. We are selling hundreds of thousands. Probably you're selling millions of these belts. Where does the success comes from? Why is it so popular for Dayco, the timing belt?
The success, in my opinion, comes from our commitment to quality, sustainability, and our approach to our customers. The level of service that we give to our customers is something very crucial for us. So it's, of course, very important to have a high quality product, but it's also important to know how to approach to different markets. It's also important to understand the needs of certain markets. So we are, of course, committed to our product's quality, but we are also focusing on the level of service we are giving to our customers.
So when it comes to quality, there is no compromise on the quality. But do you think because maybe you are closer to the market, maybe you understand and you are able to give a better service to the market? I mean, when we started working with Dayco a few years ago, I mean, we are not very long. I think we started in maybe 2020,
yes,
something like this. We very soon understood the strength of Dayco and the timing belt. And this is why it's always an interesting question to ask. And definitely, let's continue on the timing belt. If we look at, there is a lot of misconcept about timing belt. Is it same as chain? Is it not different? When do I need to change the timing belt? Some people say timing belt this is similar to the chain. They can stay forever. There is some misconcept about the timing belt. And since I have you here, and especially because of our audience, sometimes we see how things are and how the garages or people change. Someday they change the bearing, they don't change the belt. Sometimes they change the belt, they don't change the bearing. And I would like to take the opportunity that you are here as a manufacturer, as an expert in this, to give us more insight into this misconcept and what is the right way to do.
Of course. First of all, the proper way to understand when to change any part, including our parts, is to consult to the car manufacturer's manual.
Yes, for sure.
Because even though we speak about the timing belt or the timing chain, every timing belt can have a different frequency. Every engine's, every application's needs might differ. So some engines, timing belts could be required to change at 60,000 kilometers. Yes. Another belt maybe could be changed at 120,000 kilometers. Sure. In general, the chain is more durable, but it's the most important thing to do is to check the car manufacturer's manual to understand when the belt or the chain must be changed.
Yes.
From our point of view, of course, when you replace the belt or any bearing in the power transmission or in the auxiliary drive, it is quite crucial to change all the components of the application. So if you change the timing belt but do not replace the bearing, it could have negative effects on the durability on the belt as well. So,
and then later on the engine as well.
Exactly. So once you are operating on the engine, once you pay for the labor, if you're changing any component, it's safer to replace all the components to have an ease of mind for the next 60, 90 or 100,000 kilometers.
And I think it's also cost effective because,
of course,
when you look at the timing belt or the timing, it is a very time-consuming process to change. It's a critical for the engine. Any damage to that can damage the whole engine. So when we are opening the engine and we are changing that, we maybe should make sure that we change all the components. That will give us another maybe another 100,000 kilometers of mine. But if we don't do this, maybe after 20, 30 or 40, we have again to do something on that engine.
Exactly.
So it is also, I think, cost effective on that side. There is some misconcept saying that you just look at the belt, if there is no crack or you don't see any signs of wear on the belt, you don't need to change. Is this true?
No, of course, it's not the proper way to analyze the belt just by observing with the eye, because the belt is composed of rubber and cords inside, so any damage might have occurred with time and with the usage. So the most proper thing to do is either to follow the car manufacturer's manual, or when any component needs to be replaced in the power transmission, it's the safest way to change all the components at once.
At least now we have covered this topic. There is a lot of, even when we are selling the bearing, sometimes people does not buy the belt and we say, okay, you're changing the bearing or the water pump, you have to do this. And I think using this platform to educate is also an important part of what we do. Now, let's look at Dayco. We know Dayco is very strong on the European car park, at least for the past 20, 30 years, it's covering majority of the European car parks. But also from our experience and you developing and working to grow the Middle East and African market, we see there is a significant growth in the emerging market, let's call them, Middle East, Africa, yes. Turkey, and so on. Where does this success comes from? And how do you see the growth in the past few years?
Our sales team consists of professionals who work to understand the different needs of different markets. So OE, of course, is a very crucial part of our business, but aftermarket requires somehow a different approach. We are working with distributors like Mineral Circles Bearings, who have expertise on the markets that they are working with. We try to approach different markets, different countries, if necessary, with different sales policy and different sales approach. We try to observe the needs of the end user in each country, and we try to understand which is the best way to connect them with our product. So this usually requires a different approach for different markets. This is what we are mainly focusing on, the areas that we are working. So country by country, we need to apply most of the time a different strategy. I would say this is the root of our success in the area.
Now, if we look at the car park in this region, it looks a little bit different than maybe the European car park or yes. the American car park.
Yes.
Does Dayco cover this car park, which is in this region? I'm talking about Middle East and Africa.
Of course. Our products actually cover more or less 95% of the car park in the region.
Okay, so that's a big number.
Yes, yes. Our OE presence also is extremely strong with all the car makers and truck makers, especially in the area. So day by day, we are focusing on understanding the changing needs of the markets that we are working, and we are trying to adapt our product range in accordance with the needs of the market. So I would be confident to say our coverage is extremely wide, considering the competition.
So if we look at Middle East and Africa, of course, there is European cars, but I think it's a predominant with Japanese and Korean cars application. So we can say confidently that you have the coverage for most of these applications.
Exactly.
Now, let's look at the industry from a different aspect. Now, the market is transportation and mobility is we are in the era of the digital world and the era of things are changing, and I think there is a rise of what we call the micro mobility. The e-scooters, the e-skateboards, the skateboards, and the electrical bikes or bicycles and all of that. The estimation of the market share for this micro mobility in 2023 was around $30 billion, and it's expected to reach $90 billion by 2030.
That's huge.
It's very big, and it is something that I think we can start seeing this even both in Europe and in many cities, that the transportation, especially smaller distances, the young generation are using these e-scooters, e-mobile, and bicycles, or so it becomes getting more popular. And with these numbers, it is 3 times more. It's from 30 to 90 in not so many years. So do Dayco look at this as an opportunity market or a market to look at?
We are trying to understand how we can work on projects with the manufacturers of, let's say, different vehicles in regards to micromobility. In the recent years, we developed a project with the famous German car maker and motorcycle maker, and the power transmission belt of the electrical motorcycle for OE was Dayco.
Okay.
So we are, whenever there's power transmission, we would like to be present there. So we are checking the opportunities, different opportunities about how to serve the consumers. Of course, some applications require different specifications. So we are trying to work to understand what type of applications we can work, and we are keen on developing different products to satisfy the needs of the manufacturers.
You know, what makes this also interesting because it's a lots of what we call them the shared mobility. Because nowadays you can your mobile app take a scooter for 20 minutes, 30 minutes or 40 minutes, and and it becomes, so the mileage or the number of kilometers they run is way different than if there is a one owner. And then this is, I think, the shared mobility is not only on this micro mobility, but I think it's a concept that is becoming more popular.
Very popular, yes.
In different markets where you share the car and I think if we look at these cars, normally the mileage per year is way higher than a single user of this application. And this is, I think, it's going to change maybe how rapid we have to change these spare parts, if it's a belt or if it's a chain. And I think things are like the transformation of mobility and transformation, it's on its way. We are not yet there, but I think there is a lot. We are maybe lucky to be part of this transformation that we are observing. And I think we still we have a long way to go until maybe we reach autonomous cars and all. But with that, all of these, the number of services you have to do on a car per year is changing. And
rapidly changing, yes.
And it's have a demand on these products.
Young people in some countries especially tend to have less interest on owning a car. So car ownership is in some countries is less popular. I was really surprised to understand my 18-year-old nephew was not interested in owning a car and had no interest in cars in general. So young people usually have a more pragmatic approach to cars rather than owning. It could be sharing or it could be micro-mobility solutions. So it's really surprising to see, to witness how the industry is changing in that respect.
Like maybe we are old enough, like it have always been a dream to own a car.
Exactly.
I mean, when we are young, at 18, the first thing we want to do is have a driving license.
Exactly. The first thing I did when I turned up 18 was to apply for a driving license.
Exactly. And I think it was very popular at our time is that this was a milestone. Driving license was an important milestone. And then owning a car was like the next important, and what kind of a car. And we would dream of a car for years before we buy. And I think this is also changing with the younger generation looking at this. It's a bit, maybe looking at it's transportation from A to B. Not anymore a luxury or a prestige to own a car. I think, and it is interesting how this generation looks at cars. Now, if we look at from the power transmission business or from this is actually a good, because these cars will have more mileage and we will have more business to do. So this is it's a good sign for the business. But this is also shows that the mindset is shifting from owning a car to maybe sharing a car or using this e-mobility.
Exactly.
Recently, I think I read that Dayco have opened a full-scale belt manufacturing in Mexico.
Yes.
And while I was reading the news, and I was like, what came to my mind, like, why Mexico? And like, what does it mean for me as a distributor that you are now producing in Mexico? Give us some insight about what's going on the other side of the world.
Of course, as you know, in the last decade, Dayco grew very aggressively, especially in the aftermarket. So we have manufacturing facilities in different locations all over the globe. We believed that Mexico is the proper location to, first of all, enhance our presence in North America and LATAM, and then, of course, to support some part of the EMEA business. I think Dayco will continue investing in new manufacturing facilities in the following years to come. We are trying to optimize our manufacturing, our strength in logistics and stock optimization. So I think our manufacturing facility in Mexico will help us improve the level of service we are giving in specifically the timing belt.
You know why it was surprising for me? Because recently I heard that one of the big manufacturer or premium manufacturer belt is closing some of their manufacturing facilities, for example, in some other parts of the world.
Yes.
And then Dayco is opening a new facility. So it's a bit, surprising. This means you would be able to maybe better delivery time, maybe more range of products.
Exactly.
Will it only service the North American market, or we will see some products coming to the region?
No, of course, not necessarily only to serve the North American or the Latin American markets, but we believe it will be also helpful for us to improve the level of availability that we grant to our distributors in EMEA region. We also have different manufacturing facilities in different countries. From logistics point of view, we believe that it's important to have, let's say, regional manufacturing facility to optimize the service that we provide to our distributors all around the globe.
I know that we get already now some products from Argentina. So you already have, and we get products from different parts of the world. So, so maybe in the future we see some made in Mexico Dayco belts.
Likely. Why not?
Another topic is what I call the motorsport or the hobby sport. Now, this is a growing market as well. The general motorsport is today a $140 billion market. It's estimated to grow up to $200 billion in 2030. But I know as well, Dayco have some niche in that hobby sport market. And I want you to tell us more about this.
Of course, Dayco loves competition, Hassanein.
Yes.
It's in our
DNA.
DNA, exactly. So we also have sponsorships all around the world in different categories. It would be important to emphasize our presence in snowmobiles, all-terrain vehicles, electrical motorcycles, like we mentioned before. So, as I mentioned, wherever there's a power transmission, we want to be there. We would like to be there, so we are there. As it is in our DNA, we try to support different types of, let's say, competition all around the world. So we are present as Dayco in different organizations, both with our products and as a sponsor.
Why I think this is interesting, and I want you to give us a bit more on this. Now, in this, I know snowmobile is maybe famous in some part of maybe in Canada, north of Europe, but we don't have a lot of snow in
Middle East. Yes, I know.
but on the other side, we have a lot of sand, and we see a lot of Dayco's product in the 4x4s, these buggies, and I think a lot of our audience from the region, it's part of what we do in this part of the world. We like this, what you call it, all-terrain vehicles, right?
Yes, all-terrain vehicles, yes, ATVs.
So we like to take these buggies, 4x4s in the desert, and I know you have a special range dedicated for this. And some of our audience maybe recognize that, but for the others that does not recognize, I want to know more.
Of course, you mentioned we have niche products in that segment. We are covering a wide range of all-terrain vehicles. Belts for power transmission. We are offering more than 500 items. So it covers the majority of the ATVs, the popular ATVs that are used in the Middle East. So when the end user needs to replace the belt, I'm sure he will know Dayco immediately. So he will have the product, he will have the availability with the let's say acceptable price. So we are quite content with the growing business also in that segment.
I know that some of the popular part, they start with XTX and HPX and HP and CVT, and I think these are interesting product for that niche all-terrain vehicles. Yes, I mean for us it's an interesting because in this part of the world is the going to the desert is part of the the region speciality. We take our time in the weekends. Maybe we drive in the desert and we have maybe a coffee or tea somewhere there, and it's a hobby that is by most of the area, if it's UAE, Saudi, or Oman, and it is a common, and your brand is presented in a lot of these products. Let's look at a question that a lot of our audience is always wondering. Whenever we interview, we have a guest from the engine side of the business. Mm-hmm. We cannot deny the growth of hybrid cars, electrical cars in the market. And where is Dayco in this segment? How is Dayco taking this challenge?
Of course, our product range, some part of our product range is only present in the internal combustion engine. Mm. What we believe as a company is that we are quite successful in observing and understanding and developing the needs of the changing market conditions. An important part of our product range is also present in the electrical vehicles. And of course, in the future, how the aftermarket of these electrical vehicles will evolve is still yet to be answered. But we believe we are confident with adapting to the changing needs of the market. So we will always be an important supplier for the aftermarket, also for the hybrid cars, especially, and electrical vehicles. Mm. So we are not afraid of the changes of the aftermarket. We are confidently trying to observe and react accordingly.
You know, when it comes to aftermarket, still, even the growth of the sales of electrical vehicle, but the car park is still 99% globally dominated by the ICE engine. So exactly. In aftermarket, well, as a distributor like me, I think we still have 10, 20 years to look at this. It's of course, it's a market that is significantly, it's growing. Mm. But on the other hand, we have observed something that is happening in this region where the growth of hybrid vehicles. And these hybrid vehicles, for us, we love that because it gives you will still supply all the ICE engine components plus the other components. Yes. So it's actually not, it's an opportunity. I look at it from me as a distributor working with you and with some famous manufacturer. I think hybrid is a big opportunity. A lot of the change in this region is happening through hybrid. People are moving from ICE to hybrid, which gives the advantage of maybe cost-cutting, efficiency, but also does not require the infrastructure of electricity and so on. And we are seeing that growing not only in the Middle East, but also in Africa, because the infrastructure, the electricity infrastructure is not so strong, and we see this hybrid. And for the hybrid business, I think we are well covered there.
Hassanein, I think the key to success, both for the supplier, the manufacturer, and for the distributor, is to observe and react accordingly to the changes in the aftermarket. Mm. So even if the market is to convert from ICE engine to hybrid engine or to electrical engine, any company, manufacturer, supplier, or distributor that is able to react to the changing needs of the market, I think they will be successful.
True.
There's still lots of parts to produce and sell, in my opinion.
So I know that always Dayco is working on new project. And what are the latest product? Is there any new product in the pipeline? You mentioned a little bit about the wheel bearing kit. Mm-hmm. I think it's quite a fairly new product in the. Mm-hmm. So tell us if there is anything that we should expect or anything in the pipeline.
Of course. Hassanein, in my 11 years with the company, I have seen first the change in the markets we are working, especially in Turkey and Middle East, from the sales of the single belt to the timing belt kit. Mm. And then the timing belt kit with water pump. Mm. And now the market is slowly changing to timing belt kit with water pump and the thermostat. Yeah. So recently we have increased thermostats, wheel bearings, and steering and suspension parts to have a more complete range. This all happened in the last 5 years, more or less. The next 5 years, 10 years, we are trying to understand how we can serve our customers better, and to choose the product lines to start will be key to enhance our growth. For the moment, the majority of our sales is from the timing belt kits with water pumps, and the thermostats and the wheel bearings and the steering and suspension is for the moment completing our range. So in the near future, we will see how we will increase and which product lines we will use to serve our customers better.
Sure. Tan, it was really lovely to have you on our show. I mean, we enjoyed your presence. We had the time to look at some Dayco products and the timing belts and auxiliary belts. Any last words?
Hassanein, it was a blast since day one to work with you and your company.
Thank you.
Always enjoy your presence and always happy to exchange ideas. And your vision is also very valuable for us. So I thank you very much for this kind invitation and hope to work with you in many more years to come together.
Will do. For our audience, thank you very much for this episode. It was lovely to have you, Tan, on this show. Until next time, keep spinning towards success. And that wraps another episode of Wiki Bearings. Don't forget to subscribe for more insight into the fascinating realm of the engineering innovation. Until next time, keep spinning towards greatness.